If you're thinking about making a move to the Okanagan, there's a really good chance that you've looked at both Lake Country and at Vernon. And honestly, on social media and the real estate listings, they seem pretty similar. Both have lakes, there's a few wineries in Vernon, there's lots in Lake Country, there's mountain views, there's golf, and there's beautiful homes in both areas. But once people actually spend some time in both places, they realize they do feel very different. One feels more connective, active, and self-contained, while the other feels a little bit quieter, more rural, and more tied to Kelowna. And depending on the lifestyle that you value, one of these places might be a better fit for you. So today I'm breaking down the real differences between Vernon and Lake Country. This is going to include home prices, traffic, lifestyle, and recreation. We're also going to include the community feel and the types of buyers who tend to buy in both locations and be the happiest. I'm Reners with Remax Vernon Salt Fowler. And every week we help people relocate to the Okanagan and determine which community is better. Honestly, this comparison surprises a lot of people because the differences become much bigger once you actually live there. Let's start with the overall lifestyle feel of Lake Country. It can feel quieter, more spread out, and honestly, a little bit more like a rural feel than many areas. The communities. We have Oyama, Cars Landing, and parts of Winfield. Some have that semi-rural Okanagan feel. A lot of people love that. But here's the important distinction. Lake Country often functions more like a lifestyle community. It's connected to Kelowna, and that's what people really like about it. Meaning many of the residents still drive into Kelowna on a regular basis for things like Costco, major shopping, restaurants, healthcare, and often employment. Vernon, it feels a little bit different. Vernon operates much more fully like a self-contained city. You have the hospital, you have major recreation facilities, you do have shopping, you have restaurants, but not to the extent that you have if you're living in Lake Country and going to Kelowna. You have car dealerships and big box stores. It's a little bit more established neighborhood type feel. So while Lake Country can feel quieter and more scenic, Vernon often feels a little bit more practical and easier for day-to-day living, especially if this is long-term. Let's talk a little bit about the growth, because this explains a lot why people in these areas feel so differently day-to-day. Back in 2008, Lake Country had roughly 10,000 to 11,000 residents. Today, we're looking at an estimated, we'll say 16 to 17,000 people. That's approximately a 50 to 60% growth, and you can really feel that rapid development happening. New subdivisions, new Lakeview communities, we see new townhome developments, more commuter growth tied to Kelowna. Now let's compare that to Vernon. Back in 2008, Vernon had roughly 36,000 to 37,000 residents. Today, Vernon is approaching almost 50,000 residents. Well, maybe even go up to 60. That's still major growth, roughly 30 to 35%. But the pace has been a little bit slower and more manageable than what Lake Country has seen. It still feels like it's actively transforming, but Vernon feels more established and a little bit more settled. Home prices and what you actually get. This is where many buyers pause. Lake Country has become very expensive, and honestly, that surprises some people. Because while it's smaller than Vernon, proximity to Kelowna has pushed pricing very aggressively on the upwards front. As of late 2025, the Vernon average home prices were roughly $782,000, while Lake Country detached homes, they were averaging around that $1,009,000. That's a huge difference. And what buyers often notice is that in Vernon, they can usually get a little bit more house for the price. For example, in Vernon, a $900,000 house might buy you a newer home on a little bit of a larger lot, with potentially better parking and sometimes even often lake views. In Lake Country, that same budget may buy you a smaller lot, maybe in an older home and in a little bit of a tighter subdivision, especially in areas close to, let's look at Oyama, Lakestone, or even some of the premium Lakeview neighborhoods. Now, obviously there are exceptions, just like everywhere, but overall, Vernon tends to offer a little bit stronger value per dollar. Traffic and commuting. The reality is this is a big one that people underestimate. Lake Country sits directly on Highway 97 between Vernon and Kelowna. That sounds very convenient, and it is. However, sometimes it also means that there's commuter traffic, there's summer tourism traffic, and also there's airport traffic. And on the long weekends, you have to anticipate a little bit of congestion, especially around that Winfield and Osceola Road and on the highway corridor. And if you work in Kelowna, you may need to spend a little bit more time in your vehicle than you really expected. Vernon traffic, it exists too, absolutely. But most people living in Vernon can get from Middleton Mountain to downtown or from Okanagan Landing to the BX in about 10 to 15 minutes. We have a running joke. Everything's 10 minutes away. The day-to-day ease becomes much bigger, and it always is reflective on quality of life. And that's a lot of things that buyers need to realize when they're looking. Quick pause. If you're thinking about relocating to the Okanagan or into Vernon, Kelowna, or anywhere else in between, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. We are posting videos just like this every single week. And if you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, or just curious about the area that we call home, Salt Fowler would be happy to help. And if you're starting your search, make sure that you grab our free relocation package, and you can find that at vernonrelocation.com. Now, obviously both places have incredible outdoor lifestyle things to consider. Lake Country has Wood Lake, Okanagan Lake, it has all the wineries, they're stunning. They have paddleboarding, boating, and of course, they have beautiful scenery. Lakestone especially has become extremely popular for luxury lifestyle buyers. But Vernon has one massive advantage. It has variety. You have Kalamalka Lake, you have Okanagan Lake, and you have Silver Star. Don't forget about Predator Ridge, you have Ellison Provincial Park, and also you have the BX Trails. And lastly, you have extensive year-round recreation. Honestly, Kalamalka Lake alone changes the conversation. People move here expecting a nice lake, and then they see Cal Lake in person and they say, okay, this is insane. So who tends to prefer each area? Lake Country, it often fits people that are Kelowna commuters or who just like that Kelowna feel, luxury Lakeview buyers, someone who wants newer subdivision, and people wanting proximity to the airport. Vernon often fits more retirees, more families, potentially snowbirds, maybe someone who works remote, and buyers wanting a little bit less stress or more affordability, or potentially just that more balanced pace of life. A lot of buyers who initially focus on Lake Country oftentimes realize we actually spend more time in Vernon than we expected. That happens surprisingly quite often. Because Vernon has a little bit more shopping, more sports, healthcare, and more daily infrastructures overall comparatively to Lake Country. Honestly, both places are beautiful. You really can't go wrong, but they fit different personalities. Lake Country tends to attract buyers that prioritize proximity to Kelowna, more of a luxury lake living, and newer developments. Vernon tends to attract buyers that prioritize more lifestyle balance, practicality, and more of a community thinking recreation and those types of everyday, day-to-day livability. And honestly, a lot of buyers who thought they wanted to be in Lake Country eventually realize that Vernon may actually fit their lifestyle a little bit better. So, is it better to live in Vernon or in Lake Country? Honestly, it depends entirely on the kind of lifestyle that you want for your everyday living. So whether you're thinking about moving to Vernon, to Kelowna, or to Lake Country, or anywhere in the Okanagan, we at Salt Fowler would be happy to help you. And if you're starting your home search, make sure to grab our free relocation guide, which can be found at vernonrelocation.com.